Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we are taking on one of the biggest hurdles, really, in professional life, navigating uncertainty. You know, whether you're pivoting careers, maybe recovering from a setback, or just sort of staring at a blank page, wondering, okay, how do I level up? That feeling, it can be paralyzing.
It really can. We're often told to just be adaptable.
Yeah.
But what does that actually mean? How do you do it?
Exactly.
And look, it's not just about managing uncertainty. It's more about actively reframing it. That paralysis you mentioned, it often comes from seeing problems as, well, dead ends.
Right.
So our deep dive today is really designed to short-circuit that kind of traditional thinking. We're digging into the pretty radical toolkit developed by Tina Seelig.
Ah, Seelig. She's incredible, isn't she?
Well,
Executive Director of the Stanford Technology Ventures Program.
STVP, like Stanford's hub for entrepreneurship education.
That's the one.
Yep.
And she's famous for her international bestseller, What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20.
Which is packed with insights. Absolutely. And what's fascinating about Seelig, I think, is her background. She actually holds a PhD in neuroscience.
Neuroscience, okay, that's not the usual path to entrepreneurship guru.
Right. But she applies that, rigorous scientific approach to dismantling conventional wisdom. She pushes students to see possibilities where almost everyone else just sees obstacles. It's a framework she's teaching, not just a list of business tips.
Got it. So our mission today then is to pull out the most actionable, the core mindset shifts. The stuff taught at Stanford for turning life problems even into opportunities, potentially profitable ones.
Exactly. We're giving you that entrepreneurial shortcut.
But we have to start with a concept that honestly sounds kind of weird at first.
Let's dive in. We should probably start with the famous Stanford challenge.
$5 challenge. Yes. Okay, this is legendary. Students get 2 hours and just $5. Simple goal. Make as much money as possible. Now, if you handed me $5 and said 2 hours, I'd probably buy a coffee and sit down.
And that's exactly the first instinct for most people. They focus on the $5. How do I stretch this? Buy some cheap stuff, maybe try to sell it, run some tiny service.
Makes sense.
But the groups that really succeeded, the ones who made significant money, they realized something critical almost immediately.
What was that?
The $5 bill. It was irrelevant. A total decoy.
A decoy. Okay. So they just ignored it.
Pretty much. They ignored the resource they were given and focused instead on the resources they already had. Their time, their creativity, their ability to spot a need, a problem in their immediate environment.
So they reframed the goal, not maximize $5, but create maximum value in 2 hours.
Precisely. Need finding became the core activity. And the strategies that emerged were, wildly creative.
Give us an example.
Okay, so one group tackled the, ridiculously long wait times at popular Palo Alto restaurants on a Saturday night.
I know those lines.
Right. So they'd go early, put their names down for reservations at several places. Then they'd sell their spot in the queue to impatient people showing up later.
Wait, hang on. They were literally selling time. Or impatience, rather.
Yeah. Monetizing impatience.
Yep.
Genius, right?
Brilliant.
And they adapted on the fly. They realized they could actually charge more depending on how desperate or hungry the customers looked.
Wow. Okay, what else?
Another team started really simple, offering to inflate bicycle tires on campus. Basic service.
Okay.
But then they realized the service itself was valuable enough that they didn't need to charge a fixed fee. They switched to just asking for donations.
And people probably gave more.
Way more. Their profits shot up because people felt grateful for the help and typically donated more than the, say, $1 they might have charged initially.
These are great examples of resourcefulness over resources. But you said the top team did something even more different.
Oh, yeah. The top team completely broke the mold. It really hammers home the point for you, the listener. They didn't sell a physical service or a product at all.
So what did they sell?
They recognized that their most valuable asset in that context wasn't the $5, wasn't even their labor. It was attention. Specifically, the attention of their classmates and professors during the final presentation.
The presentation slot itself.
Exactly. They sold their final 3-minute presentation slot, the time they were supposed to use to explain how they made money, to a recruiting company.
No way.
Yes. A company desperate to pitch jobs to this audience of bright, motivated, resourceful Stanford students. They paid a hefty sum for those 3 minutes.
Okay, that is next level thinking. So the connection for you listening is what? The constraint, the $5, it's just a starting point, maybe even a misdirection.
Absolutely. The real takeaway, like Seelig says, is the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. If your constraint is time, find the most valuable use of that time. If it's lack of money, find problems solvable with ingenuity.
And Seelig pushed this even further, didn't she, with paper clips?
Yeah, the paper clips variation. Instead of $5, she gave teams 10 paper clips. This forces the shift away from thinking about monetary value entirely.
And the results were just as creative, I bet.
Fantastic results. One team tried to leverage the paper clips into a Guinness World Record attempt for the longest paperclip chain. They planned to monetize the publicity.
Clever.
Others bartered them for services, starting a chain of trades. It just perfectly illustrates her point. Taking off the blinders opens up a world of possibilities.
Constraints aren't always bad, then. They can actually force creativity.
They often do. You just need to give yourself permission to, well, redefine the starting line. Throw out the initial assumption.
Okay, so the $5 challenge shows how resources can be reframed, but having resources or seeing problems isn't enough if you don't have the right mindset, the right attitude.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that. Why do people struggle so much to see problems as pathways, even when these opportunities are like staring them in the face?
Well, a lot of it is behavioral, isn't it? It's rooted in how we're often taught in traditional education or even corporate settings. We're kind of trained for problem avoidance. We get penalized for mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So the natural instinct is to stick to the safe, known path, avoid the risk. Innovators, though, they have to adopt a different attitude. Positive, proactive, tackle problems head on. That's how you build confidence.
It's about building a bias toward action, maybe?
That's a great way to put it. As Seelig writes, attitude is perhaps the biggest determinant of what we can accomplish. Think about Jeff Hawkins.
The Palm Pilot guy.
Yeah. His first big attempt, the Zoomer handheld device, is a commercial flop. A big one.
Ouch. Most people would probably pack it in after that.
Many would. Pivot fields entirely.
Yeah.
But he didn't see it as just failure. He saw it as, well, data. Rigorous data.
Learning from the mistakes.
Exactly. He used those setbacks, actively sought out customer feedback, really dug into why the Zoomer failed. And that led directly to the Palm Pilot, which, completely dominated the market for years.
So failure wasn't the end, it was R&D.
In a sense, yes. And similarly, look at Cirque du Soleil. That's another classic case of overcoming problem blindness.
Right. The traditional circus model was dying, wasn't it? Expensive star performers, controversial animal acts, massive logistical costs.
Totally. And Cirque du Soleil basically questioned every single one of those assumptions. Why do we need star acts? Let's focus on theme, artistry, ensemble. Why animals? Human acrobatics and theatrics are amazing.
They flipped it.
They flipped everything by ditching those huge cost drivers and creating something totally new, more theater, less traditional circuit. They didn't just revive an industry. They created a whole new, incredibly lucrative market category.
Okay, but that takes enormous confidence, a willingness to risk failure. Which brings us to something you mentioned earlier, the secret sauce of Silicon Valley, maybe?
The failure resume.
Yes, the failure resume.
It sounds terrifying. For you listening, what exactly is this? And maybe more importantly, how do you actually bring yourself to write one?
Well, Seelig actually requires her Stanford students to create this document. That's exactly what it sounds like. A list of your failures, academic, professional, even personal failures.
Oh, wow. But crucially, alongside each failure, you have to list the key lessons you learned from it. It sounds excruciating, I know.
I'm already squirming just thinking about it. In today's competitive world, why would anyone want to dwell on their mistakes? Isn't that like career suicide?
See, that's the traditional mindset Seelig is trying to break. The exercise forces you, really forces you, to recognize that failures aren't deviations from the path. They are the path, or at least a core part of it.
Integral to growth.
Exactly. Successful people, truly innovative people, understand that risk-taking is essential. You can't innovate without risk, and you can't risk without potential failure. The failure resume helps internalize that lesson. Failure is often the quickest way to learn.
But there's a distinction, right, about the kind of failure. This isn't about celebrating carelessness.
Absolutely vital distinction. Organizations and individuals should reward what Seelig calls smart failures. These are the ones that come from taking calculated risks, trying something new, pushing boundaries. Like the Zoomer, they provide valuable insights.
And discourage.
Discourage dumb failures. Those are just careless mistakes, negligence, repeating errors you should have learned from. There's no learning there.
Got it. Smart failure versus dumb failure.
And related to this, we often forget that sometimes quitting is the smart move.
Quitting. We're usually told never to quit.
Right. But think about it. Randy Komisar, the venture capitalist, talks about this. Sometimes quitting a project, a job, even a path that's clearly not working or isn't right for you. It's not defeat. It can be incredibly empowering, as Seelig puts it. It frees you up.
It allows for reevaluation, finding a better fit.
Exactly. Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. Sticking with something clearly wrong just because you've already invested time or effort, that's often the real failure. Strategic quitting can open doors.
Okay, that's a fantastic perspective shift. So we've hit mindset, embracing failure. Let's move into more actionable stuff. The toolkit for actually building a career, navigating life. First up, how do you find where you fit best? Avoid that feeling of just flailing around.
This is where Seelig introduces the sweet spot concept. It's pretty elegant, actually.
Right. The sweet spot.
Yeah. Success, fulfillment, impact.
Yeah.
They happen most powerfully where three things overlap: your passions, your skills, and market demand.
Passion, skills, market demand. Okay.
You need all three. If you only have two, you've got a problem.
All right. Passion and skill, but no market. It's a hobby, maybe a fulfilling one, but not a career.
Exactly. Skill and market demand, but zero passion. That's the soul-crushing job we talked about, the one you dread Monday morning for.
Okay, makes sense. But what about someone listening right now who feels stuck in that second category? They're in the tedious job. How do they start shifting towards that sweet spot? It feels daunting.
It does, but it's about flexibility and thinking about transferable skills.
Okay.
Look at the example Seelig uses of Nathan Furr. He started as an English major, loved literature, that was his passion.
Just hate passion covered.
Right, but he realized the direct market demand for a pure English degree was, well, maybe limited or super competitive in the way he envisioned.
So he didn't just ditch his passion or his skills?
He pivoted. He went into management consulting.
English major to management consulting. How?
Because he identified the core skills his English degree gave him. Deep research, critical analysis, persuasive writing, structuring arguments. These are hugely valuable skills.
Transferable skills.
Exactly. He took those skills and applied them in a market with high demand and, presumably, found aspects he could be passionate about within that field. It's about being observant, almost like traveling. Sometimes the side trips lead to the most amazing, unexpected discoveries. You have to be open.
That openness ties into the next piece, doesn't it? Luck. Most people see luck as, well, just random chance. You either have it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But Seelig argues, based on research, that luck can actually be manufactured. That sounds almost contradictory. How can luck be manufactured?
It does sound like a contradiction, but it isn't really. The mantra she quotes is deceptively simple. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Okay, I've heard that one.
But it's more nuanced. Research by Richard Wiseman, who she cites, studied people who consider themselves lucky versus unlucky. He found the lucky ones weren't just getting dealt better hands by fate.
So what were they doing differently?
They shared specific, actionable traits. First, they were simply better at noticing chance opportunities because they were more open and observant. Second, they embraced new experiences, which naturally increased the odds of encountering something fortunate.
Okay.
And third, crucially, they maintained a positive attitude. This resilience allowed them to turn apparent bad luck or setbacks into opportunities, whereas unlucky people often saw only the negative. They essentially cast a wider net in life.
That wider net idea is key. Steve Jobs is the classic example here, right? With the calligraphy class.
Absolutely perfect example. He dropped in on a calligraphy class at Reed College after dropping out. Seemed totally random, irrelevant to anything tech-related at the time.
Right, just explore.
Just exploring. Years later, when designing the first Macintosh, that experience directly informed Apple's revolutionary approach to typography and fonts. That luck was manufactured years earlier by being open to an unusual, seemingly useless experience.
So diversify your experiences. It increases your surface area for luck to strike.
That's a great way to put it. Increases your luck surface area.
Okay. Which brings us nicely to our professional capital. Things like reputation, how we work in teams. These are essential for you navigating your career. Seelig says your reputation is basically your most valuable asset.
It really is. And in today's hyper-connected world, it's also incredibly fragile. You have to guard it carefully.
Why fragile? Because word gets around faster.
Partly that, but also because, as Seelig points out, the professional world is often smaller than you think. She uses this idea that you might only truly interact deeply with a core group of maybe 50 people in the world, across different jobs, different roles, throughout your entire career.
50 people, that's surprisingly small.
Isn't it? But think about it. Mentors, key colleagues, bosses, collaborators, people who move between companies in your industry. It reinforces why you absolutely cannot afford to burn bridges. You need to act with integrity consistently because those 50 people, They talk.
Okay, that's sobering. So, practically speaking, what should you be doing, maybe even weekly, to actively protect and grow that reputational asset?
Well, the basics matter hugely. Little things that signal professionalism and respect. For instance, promptly acknowledging mistakes. Don't hide them. Own up, apologize sincerely, explain what you'll do differently. That builds trust, paradoxically.
Okay, accountability. What else?
And something often overlooked today. The simple power of writing thank you notes, actual notes, or at least thoughtful emails.
Thank you notes. Seems a bit old-fashioned.
Maybe, but they work. They take maybe 5 minutes, but they leave a lasting positive impression. It shows gratitude, attention to detail, professionalism. It makes you memorable in a good way.
Good point. Okay, and shifting slightly, when you're working in or maybe leading a team, how do you maximize both effectiveness and, ideally, fulfillment for everyone involved?
Seelig has a great principle for this. Paint the target around the arrow.
Paint the target around the arrow. What does that mean?
It means don't try to force people into roles or tasks they're fundamentally ill-suited for or dislike. That's like trying to force an arrow to hit a pre-painted target far off course. Instead, see where the arrow lands, naturally identify people's strengths, their innate talents, what they enjoy doing, and then structure the tasks and roles, paint the target around those strengths.
Align tasks with talent and passion.
Exactly. People are far more effective and motivated when they're working in their areas of natural strength and interest. You get better results, and people are happier.
Makes sense. And one last tool for managing all this, the inevitable overwhelm when you are tackling big opportunities.
Yes, the rule of 3.
The rule of 3. I like the sound of that. Simple.
It is simple, but powerful. It just means consciously focusing on no more than 3 major priorities at any given time.
Only 3. My to-do list usually feels like 300.
Right. And that's the problem. A massive to-do list where everything feels urgent leads to paralysis or just scattered, ineffective effort. By deliberately limiting your main focus to 3 key things, you ensure those critical items actually move forward. It forces prioritization and maintains effectiveness.
That's a really practical takeaway. Okay, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've covered quite a bit. Reframing resources with the $5 challenge, really embracing risk and learning from failure with the failure resume.
Finding that sweet spot where passion, skills, and market meet. Manufacturing luck.
And managing our personal capital, our reputation, using things like thank you notes and the rule of 3.
It really all circles back, I think, to the core message Seelig emphasizes right at the end of her book. It's about permission.
Permission. Permission for what?
The importance of granting yourself permission.
We tend to wait for external validation, don't we? A mentor's blessing, a job title, a promotion, someone else to tell us we're ready or allowed.
Exactly. We wait for the circumstances to be perfect, for someone to officially tap us on the shoulder.
But Seelig says.
She says, and this is powerful, every one of us has the same permission. We just need to recognize that it's ours to grant and not something extended from outside.
Wow. So stop waiting for the invitation.
Stop waiting. You don't need an invitation to be resourceful or innovative or ambitious or to lead. If you want a leadership role, she says, then take on leadership roles, leadership tasks right now, regardless of your official title.
Why wait? Success is about taking initiative, taking action, not waiting for the perfect conditions or for someone else to promote you. You are ultimately in charge of defining your own value and your own path.
Which leads to a final thought for you, the listener. If Seelig is right, if uncertainty is the essence of life and it fuels opportunity,
then the question becomes,
what one constraint, maybe it's a self-imposed limitation, a rule you always follow, maybe a comfortable situation you're reluctant to leave, what one constraint will you give yourself permission to challenge this week?